doing? I hope we are going live. I think I had some technical difficulties today. If I'm trying to see if we are actually live, and we still do not seem like we are going live. So that is a challenge that we need to be working on. Oh, I think I am live. I think I am live. I think it's working. All right. Welcome, everybody. I don't know what in the world happened before, but we were definitely having a challenge to go live. As you know, yesterday we talked a little bit about Gabby and her situation with everything, and she wasn't able to make it today because they're working a lot on her property and everything. So, we are trying to you know, just keep going and making sure we're here for you. So, with that being said, make sure you guys say hello, add something into the chat, tell us where you're from. I'm going to be running the open forum today, and the idea today is that I want to answer any questions that you have. If you are new, if maybe you're seasoned, maybe you have something on your mind, maybe there's a hiccup, maybe you're not getting all the work that you want to get, maybe you have a question about this or that. This is the time to ask. I'm here to answer the questions for you. I know I'm late today because, like I said, we were having some technical difficulties, but I did make it. So I am here. So please feel free to use because Fridays are kind of like this. We wanted it to be this open forum where we have chats with you guys and you guys can answer any questions that you might have. So while you're thinking about that and while people are joining and everything, I was talking about commercial demos or demos in general, and the idea of, last couple of days we're working on demos and working with voice actors because we help produce demos as well for voice actors through VO's journey. And, the question a big question I always get to is often, what demo do I need to start out with? Okay, so you've got yourself set up. You've taken acting classes, or you feel like you're ready to get started. What demo should I start with? I always used to tell people get started with a commercial demo. I always used to say you need a commercial demo. But I think now, fast forward till today, with the amount of different niches that we have and areas that we work in as voice actors, it is okay to not start with a commercial demo. In fact, you can start with any demo, right? It can be a commercial demo or it can be an audiobook demo. It could be a meditation demo. It could be a radio ad, TV ad demo. It could be a character demo. Could be any sort of demo, voicemail and IVR. The key is to just get a demo and to start marketing yourself with that. Now, some of the demos do present different challenges, right? So, like, for example, with a commercial demo, a character demo, these demos take some polish. They take background music, they need effects, they need good mixing, right? They need a little bit or a lot more experience sometimes to put together. An audiobook demo, for example, we don't typically put music to an audiobook demo or sound effects, right? Because we really just want to hear how you narrate it. So because of that, we typically it's easier to set up, per se, an audiobook demo as long as you have the right format. It's just you narrating. And one thing with an audiobook demo, just so you know, is remember, just make sure that you have the correct, like, you're not mixing it all together. So what do I mean by that? I typically like 3 spots on an audiobook demo, 20 to 30 seconds for each spot. And I like to make sure there's pauses in between each spot. So I usually list like the name of the book and the author, and then I give a pause, then I go into my narration, 20, 30 seconds, and then I pause and go into the next one. Do the same thing, and then pause and then go into the last one. And I do that just because it breaks it up. It lets the listener know what I'm narrating at that moment, et cetera, et cetera. So the same thing, like with, for example, voicemail and IVR. Now, voicemail and IVR, yes, there can be background music, there can be all that stuff, but it's not a necessity. Right. And there's really 3 to 4 different types of general setups for a voicemail greeting. Hello, thank you for calling. We're not here right now, or please, the press one for so and so, or we'll get back to you. There's just a couple of those greetings that pretty much remains the same. And so once you get those down, it's pretty much just changing the businesses, as well as, do you want like an upbeat and happy one, a serious one, more corporate, more funny? I always like to make sure they are mixed in there, some funny ones, some not funny ones. So anyways, you don't have to have the fanciest demo first, because you might not be able to afford that. Okay. All right, we got a question. So remember, guys, this is kind of like, I want it to be open forum kind of Friday, where you ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them. So let's see. All right, Strange Storm put, I had confused commercial demo with professional demo, so I'm glad you mentioned this. Whatever demo starting out can be DIY, right? Right, and that's what I think that's what that's what I'm trying to say here, right? Is that you're gonna want to get a demo done by a demo producer. You know what I mean? Whether you use VO's Journey or someone else, there's lots of demo producers out there. But you're going to want to work with professionals. We all do, right? But you're also going to need to be able to do it yourself. Do some yourself, because there's going to be way more. So question I always get: how many demos do I need? Well, we need a bunch, right? I mean, you're going to need many different demos, right? As you go through your journey. So because of that, you're going to want to be able to start to learn how to put demos together. Part of the demo process is really knowing the format for each individual demo, or what's expected. Okay. Also, then is it, going to be better with music, without music, with background effects, not with background effects? What are people listening for? And so knowing all these things really does help. So that's part of the battle of putting your own demo together. All right, let's see. We've got a Dylan. Hey, Dylan, thank you so much. Says, if we set up a one-on-one session with you, do you critique demos if we provide them? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. On a one-on-one session with me, critique the demos. I help you out 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, I love, listen, part of one thing I find too that will be very helpful to people is, we don't know what we don't know. And when you put something together, if you don't have someone else listen to it that will give you feedback, how do you even know if it's good enough? How do you know if people are going to like it, if you've done the right thing, if you put something together that people are willing to buy from you? I just finished doing a podcast with Tiffany Magnuson, who's a new upcoming. So we have our live series here, and we also have a VO's Journey podcast. And then separately on that podcast, I'm starting to interview more new and upcoming voice actors, right? And she mentioned something about people buying your voice. And of course, I understood all the years I've done this. I know that's what it is, but I never really thought, and I don't know, in just terms of saying it like that. You know what I mean? We're trying to get people to buy our voice. Now you can say buy our voiceover, but reality, it's buy our voice, buy our style, buy into our interpretation of what we're doing. So it's hard to know, right? Like with your demo or whatever, if someone is if it's good enough, or if it's meeting the criteria that it should meet, unless you have someone listen to it. So I'd love to help, Dylan. Absolutely. I'd love to help you out. All right. So again, make sure, if you guys are here, please, this is your moment to be able to ask questions, any questions that you might have. All right. This is a good opportunity to ask questions. And you've got some time with me. So I guess moving forward again with the demos, I can actually run through. So I think if we look at your commercial demo, it's about 6 spots that I like to have in a commercial demo. I like to have something that is luxury, typically. Now, depending on your voice style, I either do luxury or rugged, right? That's depending on, like if you have a nice smooth voice, or you got a rough voice, whatever voice type of voice you have, a style, it could be luxury or rugged. You could do both. I mean, you might be that talented, but typically I like one of those. I like a something comedic. All right. Something financial. I like to have something, a product, relatable product. You know what I mean? Like a home product. I often like to have a food tag. Okay. And then I like to always tell people I like to have them pick, is there a company, is there a brand that they really enjoy and they really like? And to do something, because I always feel that that's always really nice to have in there. So you can, so those are like six that are just generalizations. You don't have to follow those, but I like to look at those as generalizations for it, for your commercial demo. All right, let's see. We've got one line Derek. Okay, here we go. Hello, been watching your videos on Fiverr Commercial Rights, and I actually have a question. Is it possible to offer commercial rights as an extra on an existing order? Yes, absolutely. So basically, this happens a lot. Someone will purchase something from you, and they won't add in commercial or broadcast rights. So what I typically do is if that happens, I'll look at what they've purchased and I'll say, "Hey, thank you so much for your purchase. I noticed that this needs commercial rights. I'm including the extra here. Just, grab that and then I'll get started, straight away on your project." That's it. And I send in, you can do that through the chat because they offer you the ability to add an extra and you just go from there. You might get pushback. There is definitely sometimes people give pushback and they'll be like, well, I don't, that's not what I ordered, and then the argument comes. And what I do is I fight the good fight. You know what I mean? I will often, if it's a first time customer, I'll often say, okay, I say, look, this is the first time we're working together. We'll, I'll do the job for you this time, because I'm excited to build this relationship with you. But just so you know, moving forward, this is the rate that it costs. Does that make sense? So that's how I tackle it every single time, and it works very well. And the customer is usually very excited, and they will typically come back. Okay, but a lot of times these people have no idea how voiceover works and they're just they're just trying to figure it out and they're not understanding. There are some people who will always try to take advantage of you. That's the truth. But a lot of times they don't know what they have no idea how it works, right? So they don't even know why they need that. And you're like, no, 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 you need it. All right, let's see. Oh, there's a part two. Apologies for the part two. They forgot to check the box on their order and I'm trying to figure out if they need to resubmit or if I can just offer them an extra on their existing order. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, thank you very much for the clarification on that. Those gray area questions with commercial rights can be pained. Yeah, oh yeah, to try to figure out with Google. Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt, absolutely. And you'll find a lot of times, the people literally don't know or they don't know what they so they didn't click it because it's extra money. They don't want to. So remember the thing about Fiverr or any of these platforms is that they've tried to do their best to productize voiceover, and to do that, you have to break up how it's priced as instead of so for example on Fiverr, which actually I love, they use a per word scenario, right? So you have you know, every 100 words, 100, 200 words, 300, whatever you charge, right? There's a certain amount of money. So in a separate way of looking at, we were typically charged for voiceover a studio fee, and then we charge a licensing fee. Okay, but that does change depending on what genre of voiceover we're doing. Like, for example, if we're doing e-learning, we typically charge per word, right? We might charge 10, 15, 20 cents per word if we're doing an e-learning project. If we're doing a voicemail and IVR project, we might charge per prompt, X amount of money per prompt. If we're doing if we're doing an audiobook, we know we charge per finished hour. By the way, on a side note, this is why it can be very difficult to price our work because there's so many caveats, all these different areas. So what Fiverr tried to do in a lot of these places is try to encompass it all into a word count, right? So that the whole thing is just words instead of a studio fee, which is encompassed like an hour. Although Fiverr added that recently, I don't know if you saw, and then also the fee, the extras, right? All the whether it's commercial or broadcast rights, script review, all the additional things, background music, time sync, et cetera, et cetera. All these different extras Then, they come up with, well, do you need it for year licensing? So they added that, and because there's so many different caveats. So all I'm saying that to say is that sometimes give the clients a break. I mean, not saying we don't charge them. I'm just saying give them a break in the fact that they're not always out to get us. I really do think there's some who are not they're not nice people, but the majority of them are not like that. They just really don't know what they're doing. So good question, very good question. All right, what else? What else we got? What else you got for me? Let's see. All right. So, anyways, I guess as we're keeping on to while we're waiting for more questions, getting back to the demos, you should be, in my humble opinion, especially early on, changing out your demos every couple of months. Unless you've paid for a really expensive demo, in which case that can last you 6 months to a year, maybe. But typically, if you're doing your demos yourself and you're growing, you're taking classes, maybe you're taking classes with VO Journey or whatever, or you're taking lessons or whatever you're doing, and you're growing, you need to be updating your demos pretty regularly, at least every couple of months. In the beginning, I wish I would have told myself that too, because the progression of growth in the beginning is going to be the most, right? You're going to have the highest growth when you're first starting out, so you want to keep putting your best foot forward. So that means you want to keep upgrading the best of your ability. Now, I will say that one thing that is very important here, and you'll find a lot of people who say that I see what you're saying, Anthony, but it's not a good idea to do your own demo because you're not, you know, good at engineering. And I want to say that part of that is very true. What we don't want to do is create our own stuff and then it be very poorly mixed, or, and the sound quality is not good. Do you know what I mean? Like that because no matter how good you are as a voice actor, if your quality of your sound and of the audio file is poor, people aren't going to hire you. So I do think that that's an important thing to mention, is we want to make sure that the quality is very good. So if you're struggling with that, that's what you need to be focusing on, hands down. Okay, I think we got another question. This comes from Max. In your opinion, what is the state of play with voiceover versus AI? Great. I love this question, Max. So first and foremost, I'm going to tell this to everybody. For better or for worse, AI is a competitor. It is another competitor. Think about it. It is a voiceover. You can hire them. They're competitors. So in my mind, when I look at that and I think of it that way, all right, it realizes they're there. So like, for example, Max, when you get in the industry and you're doing a voiceover, I'm not going to say to myself, well, I'm done because Max is in the voiceover industry now. There's no work for me. All right. So I think that's how I look at it, is that AI is a competitor. And because of that, that makes, I realize that, they're never going to be better than I am. Meaning that, like I said, unless, Sarah Connor turns, and Terminator is running around Arnold, until they actually become artificially intelligent. Right now we use the term AI, but that's not really what it is, right? It's not artificial, it's not making its own judgments yet. Right now it's basing everything off of what we feed it, what we give it. That's why they want our voices to train the models. And then through algorithms, they just take our voices and then use them, right? They're not making their own, they're not coming up with their own voices yet. But even then, your voice is still unique in the way you deliver your work, so they are competitors. So don't forget that. So they're competition. Now, just like Walmart, they might be really tough competition. But AI is not like that. Okay? There's always going to be a place. And I want you to think of it this way too. AI, just like we talked about Fiverr earlier, a lot of people disliked Fiverr, and many still do, because of the pricing and all the different things that Fiverr did. However, what Fiverr did do is they opened up the industry to so many people who would never get a voiceover, right? Which in turn gave us voice actors more opportunities that we never would have gotten. So, perfect example. I do a voiceover for a gentleman who every Halloween he, gets a voiceover for his house, where he projects all ghosts and stuff on there and they do a voiceover and I do it for him. That guy would have never gone to a professional like a studio and hired a voice actor, for thousands of dollars to do that. You know what I mean? But I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. I'd even do it for free. I mean, no, he pays me good money, but I'd still do it because it's fun. Like it opens up a world to a bunch of people who never thought they could do voiceover. Same with AI, right? And the promotion stuff. It's opening up a world. It's pushing the boundaries to where it's needed, and we're not going away. I mean, unless we quit, we're not going away. They're just competitors. Okay, so I look at it that way, but I am fully aware that it is very scary for people. And a lot of people fear maybe I shouldn't get into voiceover, maybe I shouldn't look at it that way. I disagree. I think this is a fantastic time because we are getting so much marketing through this AI, right? People really do still want great voiceovers. And, there's some voiceovers that AI is going to get, but there's a lot that it's not going to get. So, yeah, so just look at them as a competitor. They're not going to take over. I mean, the only way they take over everything is if you quit. But I'm not. So, yeah, so that's how I look at AI. Good question. Okay. Dylan said, I've watched a bunch of your videos, so I know that you started like most of us, but how did you break into actual commercial work? I suppose my question is, how can I break into commercials? I like audiobooks, but really want to be the voice of a brand. Good question. So I've told this story a bunch, but I'll tell it again for this. So it was probably a year and a half in to my journey, and I had went on vacation and I'd put all my stuff on, pause. Like I just didn't do anything for a couple weeks. And I'd come back and my business was like completely decimated, right? No one was buying anything. And I hadn't been getting any commercial work anyways, but I mean, just in general voice, because I'd always been able to do audiobooks and character voices, especially scary voices. And I was very frustrated. So it was summer, and I decided I was going to, because I was teaching, because I was a teacher before I went full time. This, and I decided I was going to lay down, and I literally I can remember I remember where I laid. I can remember the how everything looked because we don't live there anymore. But the house, but I said I'm going to lay on my floor in my living room, and I'm not going to go anywhere until I figure this out. Because I was pissed. I was pissed that I could not figure out how to get commercial work, commercial voiceovers whenever I saw everyone else doing it. So what I did, and I actually told the story on this. I think I told the story here the other, and so I won't go too much into it because I told it with Gabby on one of our lives recently. But basically, the point was is I studied a bunch of people that were getting commercial voiceover work, a bunch of male voice actors my age that had similar pitch and tone and stuff that I had, and I started to work on my range, my pitch range. Like I noticed that a lot of these men were being hired for commercials with a lower pitch range that were my age, a style of delivery. They had a little bit of gravel in their voice. There's all that stuff. So as an actor, I went to work on creating that character, right? So now, and if you'll notice, if you go back and early on, you'll notice you'll hear a lot of my work. I talk like my voice is up here like this, more forward, right? I used to talk a lot like this, but I trained myself to get back and talk more like this, right? In the back of my throat. And that's now how I speak a lot more in this because I worked on the positioning of my voice and the style in which I deliver to get into the right, I guess, sale, or what people would buy. And so when I got that and I started putting out new demos with that new style, I started booking commercial work. It wasn't hard. I call it your money voice, right? Finding your money voice. I had to find my money voice, and that was the summer that changed my trajectory forever. Because up until that point, I wasn't really making much money, doing audiobooks best I could. But after that, I went from, you know, less than $20,000 total that I made over six figures. And it was that change that changed my life. So a lot of times, Dylan, it can be that it might not have found exactly that money voice yet. Let's see. Strange Storms. Here we go. Where do I find what is included in VO Journey Academy on your YouTube channel and pricing? Oh, thank you. Yeah. So actually, if you go to it's on our website www.aviosjourney.com. And you can find us there. I just posted in there. I hope that goes to everybody. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Okay. Yeah, but it's just avosjourney.com. And you can see there and it'll show you everything. That's our website. So thank you. Yeah, we'd love to have you. Gabby and I teach there. Kat met with her earlier today. She's phenomenal. Just amazing voice actors, coaches, people who've been in the industry forever. And we'd love to help you and work with you. Okay, well, listen, I have gone way over. Thank you guys so much for your questions. That was really fantastic. I really appreciate it. And again, sorry for the delay. I know we were late today, but we definitely, I was able to get back, and Gabby sends her regards. She misses everybody, but she couldn't make it because, she had to be at her house, and it's crazy construction there. So hopefully everything good. She should be back on Monday, and we'll be set to go. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, have a wonderful Friday. I will talk to you all Monday. Bye, everybody. Goodbye.